Hey everyone, it's Nicole McLeod. Thank you for joining me today. Today I want to start off by telling you a story. It's a story of a dark place that I was in at one point in my life. I had my kids 50% of the time, and the other 50% they were with their father. And my husband was traveling about 40% of the time. And I was home those days by myself with my little dog Molly and a kitchen full of food. And I didn't have a job because my schedule with my kids is so fluctuating that it makes it kind of hard to keep a schedule and be home with my kids during a transition period in our lives. And so I decided that it was more important for me to be home with the kids. Meanwhile, on the days that the kids weren't there, I found myself in this place where I could stay in bed or I could be on my couch and I could just hang out all day and nobody would even know that I did nothing. And I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, I want that, right? Well, let me tell you something. It was good for the first little while, for the first day or two. And after that, I began to get depressed and I began to feel useless, like I didn't have a purpose. And I started eating a lot and feeling like crap, and I really was not happy with myself as a person. And it wasn't until I got to that point that I realized something, that a lesson that I had learned previously. Oftentimes in our lives, we relate our confidence to the relationships that we're in, to the fact that we are a parent or a spouse or a child or a sibling or a mother, whatever our relationships may be at that time. Most of the time, the relationships that we base our confidence on are our romantic relationships. So with our boyfriends and girlfriends or husbands and wives. And when I went through my divorce, I saw a lot of this in women. I saw a lot of the fluctuating self-confidence where if people were in a relationship, they were at this peak and they felt good about themselves and they were happy and they felt like they were useful and productive. And then as soon as that relationship ended and they dropped down lower, they started to feel bad about themselves and think that they weren't worthy of things and they didn't trust themselves and they didn't trust their abilities. And I can tell you right now that self-confidence does not come from external places. It doesn't come from relationships. It doesn't come from your job. It doesn't come from what other people say about you. That's not where confidence comes from. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about self-confidence. When we look up the definition of self-confidence, we learn that it is freedom from doubt. It is a belief that you have in your own abilities. It is a trustful relationship that you have with yourself. So in all of these definitions, you see that confidence comes from within, right? Do you trust your abilities? Do you doubt yourself? These are the places that confidence comes from. Now let me tell you, a career or working tends to help build confidence because, number one, you are setting goals and you are obtaining things, and so you are finding out how great you are with your abilities. So those things tend to boost our self-confidence when we're being productive and we're using our abilities. But that isn't necessarily related to a job. That can be in any facet of life, really. But the important thing is knowing what your abilities are and using those abilities, and that will help increase your faith in your own abilities. Also, you want to have positive conversation with yourself. In yesterday's video, we talked about positive thinking. If we're constantly thinking negative things about ourselves, that's going to lower our self-confidence. But if we're thinking positive things about ourselves and And writing out those exercises that we talked about yesterday, we are building our confidence in our own abilities. So today I want you to really think about where you are getting the motivation for self-confidence. Today I was at a luncheon with some ladies and I learned a lesson from a comment that was made. A lot of times we think that because we have low self-confidence, we all have times in our life where we don't feel super confident. That's normal. That's a natural thing. However, it's when we get into these funks that we start to think that because we have no self-confidence, we have no worth and we have no value. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. Just because you don't have faith in your own abilities does not mean that you are worthless. Does not mean that you don't have value. There are some of you out there who don't believe in God, and that's fine. I do believe in God. I believe that there's a higher power that created me, and I believe that there's a higher power that has some control over my life and that there's a bigger picture. And I believe that my Creator determines my worth, determines my value. And because I believe in God and because I know that I am His daughter and His creation, that is where my worth and my value come from. Just because my confidence is waning does not mean that my worth or my value is waning. I see a lot of people, especially women, who get into a place where they have really low self-confidence. And this usually comes after a bad relationship or a bad dating experience or something. And their confidence starts to suffer. And when that confidence starts to suffer, then they start to believe that they are not worth anything or that their value has been lowered. And so they put themselves into situations where they are in bad relationships or bad friendships where they're taken advantage of. And they don't find the value in themselves or the worth in themselves. Regardless of where your confidence is, your worth and your value never change. As a human being, you have worth and you have value. And those things, they don't change. The one thing that does change is your confidence. But your confidence is different than your value or your self-worth. Your confidence comes from your own belief in yourself. Do you believe in yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you believe in the abilities that you have? Do you? I want you to think about today where your self-confidence comes from. If it's fluctuating consistently, that means it's probably based on something that isn't stable. Okay? So it's important for you, look at your abilities. What are your abilities? What are you good at? And put those into practice and make positive statements to yourself. Build your confidence through acting and testing your abilities. In the movie The Grinch, Who Stole Christmas, we see that he is very insecure with who he is. And we learn that it's not until he goes out of his comfort zone to do something for someone else that he starts to trust his own abilities. And it's only then that his heart grows 3 sizes. So I want you to focus on confidence. I want you to use your abilities to bless the lives of others because that will build your confidence. And I want you to know that when you go outside of your comfort zone and you trust your abilities, only then can growth occur. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great day.